Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Creamsicle Chronicle podcast. My name is JT Olson, and I am coming to you live from the first day of March Madness. Love March Madness, one of the great sporting events of the year. Most of my upsets came through, but hats off to all those South Florida people out there. My one upset that didn't come through, team got bounced in the first round. So if you're a Bulls fan watching this, I'm sorry. You're suffering and I'm suffering because it ruined my parlay. But that's how it goes. 11 seeds lose and parlays bust. It's a sad reality. But I'm not here to talk about basketball. I'm here to talk about Lavonte David. And I want to say nothing but good things about Lavonte David. Just the incredible quality of player he's been his entire career. Just an absolute Hall of Famer. The way he reads a defense, the way he makes tackles for loss, his coverage skills, just everything about Lavonte David has been excellent. And that includes his on-the-field play and his in-the-locker-room presence. Lavonte David's just an absolute class-act human being. This is in no way me coming on here to say negative things about Lavonte David, because I love Lavonte David. He is one of the great Buccaneers ever. I think there's a strong case to be made that he's a top 5 Buccaneer in franchise history. This is a glowing review of Lavonte David. Love him. Nothing but good things to say about him. But dude, you got to make a decision on if you're playing or not next year. The team cannot wait around for you forever. And we are here just getting weekly updates about Lavonte David. That he hasn't made a decision yet, but he's close to making a decision. He's just not there yet. Maybe next week, and then next week comes and it's the same thing. And we're just waiting. The team is waiting. The fans are waiting. But more importantly, Jason Light is waiting. And it's important for him because he has to build this roster. And he has to know if he should go out and sign another linebacker or if he should just wait for the draft. Because if Lavonte David is coming back, you don't necessarily need to go out and sign another linebacker. You have a solid pair of starting linebackers in Lavonte David and Alex Anzalone. This under the assumption Lavonte David was hindered by his knee injury last year. He didn't look very good, but we don't really know how much of that was his age and just father time getting the better of him, and how much of that was him playing with a knee injury for most of the year that he had to get drained weekly. And he said it affected his play. So if Lavonte David comes back and he's better than what he was last year, and he's the Lavonte David we saw 2-3 years ago, then that's a really solid pair of starting linebackers. David and Anzalone. You can roll into the year with that. You can draft a young guy to back them up, and he can play special teams. He can get his feet wet on the defense and take over the starting job in 2027. But if Lavonte David is not coming back, they have to sign another guy. Otherwise, they're going to be forced into drafting 2 linebackers, which wouldn't be the end of the world because it's a deep linebacker class. It's something that Jason Light could take advantage of. But you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into having to draft 2 linebackers. Because if Lavonte David comes out tomorrow and says he's retiring, then the Bucs can go out and sign, someone. I think the Patriots had a linebacker. I think his name is Jack Gibbons. He started a good chunk of the year for them. He was a good special teams player. They can go out and get that guy tomorrow. He's still available to my knowledge. And you can roll into the year with him as a starting linebacker because he was an important piece for them on defense down the stretch and into the playoffs. But if you draft an upgrade over him Say you get Sonny Styles or you get Jacob Rodriguez and you think that's your starter, then you can push Gibbons to the bench as a special teams player. Because if Lavonte comes back after the draft, he's not playing special teams. So you're either forced to start him or he is a depth linebacker who doesn't play teams. That's not ideal. Like if you're investing in a linebacker early and you have to put him on the bench because Lavonte David is coming back and he kind of forces your hand, then you're really not maximizing an early round pick. And, if Lavonte comes back sooner, then linebacker is less of a need. You feel like you can wait to the second or third round to get that guy. You don't have to target that in the first round. So really, right now, the Bucs front office isn't a standstill. They're at a stalemate waiting for Lavonte David to make a decision because he's earned all the time in the world to make this decision. Again, just a franchise icon, Ring of Honor, Hall of Fame, class act. Lavonte David deserves to take all the time he wants to make this decision. I don't fault him for taking it, and I don't fault the Bucs for giving it to him. But he's taken time. Now we are into the end of the second week of free agency. The Bucs need to know sooner rather than later. And maybe that pushes Lavonte a little bit. Maybe he needs a little external pressure from the front office. It's all good. Take all the time you need. But if you're calling every day and asking, hey, Lavonte, you made a decision yet? Take all the time you need, but all right, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Now make him know that you're waiting for him because that's what the Bucs are doing. They're waiting. And every day they wait, odds of them getting someone to replace Lavonte David go down. There are fewer and fewer options the longer free agency drags on. So they really need this decision sooner rather than later. And whatever linebackers are left on the market, you want to give yourself a starting option because we know Servassier Dennis is not a starting option. He's not even ideally your third linebacker. So if you have to draft two linebackers for your second starter and your most important depth player in that room, that's two rookies. That's not ideal. You want to be able to go out and sign a free agent linebacker, but you really can't in case Lavonte David wants to come back. So they're kind of stuck, and it's not good. Some fans, they might just want to close the door on this and say, thanks for everything, Lavonte. Have a great retirement, but the window's closed. And I get that. I fully get that. Right now, I would want the Bucs to move on because I don't know how much Lavonte has left in the tank. I don't know how much, even if he's healthy, he brings to the table. But I know there are 27-year-olds in free agency who still have a lot left in the tank, who could potentially be a starter, who could play special teams. You're getting more sure things if you move on from Lavonte David. There is a lot of risk in bringing him back, even if he's healthy, even if he wants to play. So really, really need Lavonte to make a decision ASAP. If I wake up tomorrow and see that he's decided one way or another, I'll be thrilled. I'll be absolutely thrilled. And I don't care which he picks. If he's retiring, great. Have a great retirement. Thank you for everything. You're a beautiful, beautiful person. And if he's coming back, great. Now we know what we need to do in the draft. Now we can really map out the remainder of the offseason. But really, we just need a decision. I want to turn my attention to the draft because no matter what Lavonte decides, the Bucs need to draft a linebacker. And a lot of people think that this is a really good linebacker class. And there's a lot of big names in this linebacker class. Sonny Styles, I think, is the dream pick for the Bucs at 15, linebacker out of Ohio State. Also plays with Arvell Reese, who I really haven't talked a lot about because I feel very confident he'll be gone. He is a linebacker slash edge rusher. And we can talk about Sonny Styles because off ball linebackers are devalued, and there's just the tiniest, slimmest possibility he could fall to 15. But pass rushers are always valued, and Arvell Reese brings a pass rush element on the edge that Sonny Styles does not. So that's someone who's pretty much locked in as a top 10 pick, probably a top 5 pick. So I think he'd be a really good player for the Bucks. Just won't be there. Those are the dream. The two Ohio State linebackers. After that, I think there's a significant drop off. And there are a lot of names in this draft, a lot of good players, but they're all flawed players. I mean, I look at CJ Allen, who is most people's third ranked linebacker. And I see a guy with limited athletic ability and a guy who is vulnerable in coverage. I don't think he can move the way he needs to be great at the NFL level. I think of a guy like Kenneth Murray, who was drafted in the first round probably like 5, 6 years ago now, and he gets a lot of tackles in the box, but he doesn't play sideline to sideline as well as you'd like. He doesn't cover as well if you like, and this is a world where you have to be able to cover, and CJ Allen is limited in that way. The same can be said of Josiah Trotter, who is a linebacker from Missouri. He is the son of Jeremiah Trotter, former NFL linebacker, multi-time Pro Bowler. His brother, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., was drafted by the Eagles a couple years ago. I think Josiah Trotter is a much better football player than his brother was. I expect him to go second or third round. But he's also limited in his movement skills. He's not great in coverage. He is someone who isn't sideline to sideline fast. It's more of a Sam linebacker or a Mike who has limited speed. But the difference between him and CJ Allen and why I like Trotter better is dude is incredibly physical and he will blow up blockers. You get a guard on the second level and Jeremiah Trotter or Josiah Trotter is going to knock him down. So he is a box defender, but he's a heavy-handed, physical, mean box defender in a way that CJ Allen isn't. But again, he's a limited player. He's going to be a liability / average at best in coverage. So those are two highly regarded linebackers, but they're flawed. They have a big weakness in their game, and that's something that can and will be exposed at the NFL level. Then you have guys like Anthony Hill, similar, kind of heavy footed. He's a guy who can cover a little bit better than those first two guys I mentioned, and CJ Allen and Josiah Trotter, but he's not great in coverage either. He can get after the passer a little bit. He's physical, but he just doesn't move as well as I'd want him to. And then you've got guys like Jake Golday, who moves really well. He's very athletic, very fluid, very fast. He's big. I think he's 6'4", 240, 6'3", 240. But the problem with Golday is he's not really a linebacker. Like, that's what he'll play in the NFL, but he's played edge in college. At Cincinnati last year, he kind of almost played like a hang linebacker. Like, he did not play in the box very often. And he just doesn't have those refined linebacker instincts that you'd want. So I don't know if he's really a natural plug-and-play linebacker in the NFL, which if Lavonte David comes back and you can wait till the third round to get a guy like that, then that's okay. You've got time to develop him. He can learn behind Lavonte David, who is one of the smartest linebackers who ever played this game. But if you need to start a guy day one, I think Jake Golday would be a little bit of a mess. I just don't think he's natural at the position because he doesn't have the reps that other guys do. So that's someone who you don't want to have to start. And if that's a guy you're pigeonholed into, then it's going to be a problem. Then I think the one that most people want to talk about is Jacob Rodriguez. linebacker out of Texas Tech. And dude had an incredible season last year. I think he finished fifth in Heisman voting, forces turnovers, gets a lot of tackles. He's not super small. I mean, I had him listed at 6'1", 235. I don't remember what he weighed in at the combine, but he's in that 6'1", 230 ballpark. Not any smaller than the guy like Lavonte David. So I think he's probably one of the better linebackers in the class after those top two guys. But he is someone, he can get lost in the muck. He can get caught up on blocks. He isn't going to blow people up like a Josiah Trotter would. I think his top end speed is just okay. I know he tested really well at the combine, and that's going to do nothing but help his draft stock. But I didn't feel like it was great watching him on the field. I don't think it's bad. I think it was always overblown that he was an underwhelming athlete, but I don't think he's a great athlete with the pads on. If I were to guess today, I think this is the Bucs' most likely pick for linebacker. I think they probably go pass rusher in the first round, and I think Jacob Rodriguez in the second round. You talk about football intelligence. You talk about guys who are all about football. This is someone who they saw at the Senior Bowl, and Jason Light has always drafted a guy from the Senior Bowl on day 2. I think Jacob Rodriguez is a natural fit for what the Bucs want to do. He's light on his feet. He's good in coverage. He has good speed overall. I just don't think it's great. He can really do everything you want him to. He's just a little bit on the smaller side, but that's not a big deal. We've seen linebackers this side thrive in the NFL. And then one guy who I don't think has been talked about nearly enough and is one of my favorite linebackers in this class is Terrion York, linebacker from Texas A&M. And he's another one. Really, really smart football player. Just reads the defense really well. He's got good speed, good quickness. Not sure it's great, but it's good. And, he's a plug-and-play starter in terms of talent. The only thing is, he's smaller than Rodriguez. He's 5'11", maybe 230. Probably, I think he measured in the combine at 226. So he's another guy who's really small for the position, undersized. But he's probably the best linebacker in terms of on-the-field tape, not named Sonny Styles or Arvell Reese. I love watching Terrion York play, and so do the Bucs because they interviewed him at the combine. They met with him, and he is someone who's definitely on their radar. Football character seems very high. It's a type of player who I think they are going to love. And he's also pretty powerful. He did 25 bench press reps, I think. So he's small and he's undersized, but he makes up for that with being strong. But even at his size, he will get washed out of place. He will get run over by guards. That's just his life. That's his reality. But when you really think about it, what's 4 pounds? Because I think he's only like 4 pounds lighter than Lavonte David. What's 2 inches? Is that really that big a deal? I don't think it is, for me. And other analysts will tell you different. Teams have size thresholds players got to meet. They have athletic testing thresholds. Some front offices, some coaches, they care about that more than I do. But in terms of guys who can just play football, Terrion York might be the 3rd best linebacker in the draft. Better than C.J. Allen for my money. Better than Josiah Trotter. Better than Jake Golday. Terrion York is an excellent football player. He's just little. That's all there is. It's just little. Well, we've seen small linebackers play in this league. Guys like Eagles linebacker who was just a free agent. Can't think of his name. Dean something. Dean is Dean. It's gonna bother me, but he's also a guy who was 5'11", not a big linebacker, but he's been successful. A lot of people really wanted the Bucs to sign him in free agency. What was that guy's name? Nakobe Dean. That's who it was. Thank you, Google. But players like that, they They are an outlier in terms of size, but they can play in this league if they're smart, if they're quick, if they're physical. Thank you, Fred Moore. I appreciate you. My brain was out to lunch on that one. But I want to emphasize it because I haven't heard anyone talk about him. The Bucks did meet with him at the combine, and he is a great football player. It's just one of those things where athletic testing isn't gonna do him any favors. The measurements, the underwear Olympics, that's not where you're gonna see the best of him. And that's where we're at right now. So he's not gonna get the shine that other guys do. But when those pads go on, I mean, he's as good as Jacob Rodriguez. I think he's better than CJ Allen. So I definitely think he's someone the Bucks look at in that third, fourth round. Again, just depending on if that's the range they're going to target a linebacker or not. If they're going to target a linebacker in first and second round, you probably don't take a swing on an outlier like that, even though he's great. It's just statistically, that physical profile, it doesn't usually work out in the NFL. It can, and I want to emphasize that it can. But statistically, you want to get a bigger, faster, stronger guy. And if you can get him early, maybe a more talented guy. But that just goes back to Lavonte David. He's got to make his decision. Do the Bucks invest in a linebacker in the first and second round because they don't have to worry about pushing Lavonte to the bench? Or do they invite Lavonte back as the starter next to Alex Anzalone, and they get that linebacker in the second, third, or fourth round? Sit behind him, learn for a year, take over for Lavonte next season. I mean, it's a big influence on what the plan should be if I were drawing it up. Just a couple other names I want to mention, guys I like who are sleepers. Harold Perkins is a really good athlete out of LSU. He's just kind of raw. He's been an edge rusher in college. He's been kind of like that nickel hang linebacker. He doesn't really have the developed instincts, but he's a good athlete. So he's someone I think is worth mentioning. And then there's another linebacker who plays for Alabama, and he's not the one who gets the most attention. Deontay Lawson is talked about a lot from Alabama. He was, kind of through the college season, he was kind of thought up as a top 5 linebacker going into the draft. Didn't have a good year, and he's really fallen off the radar. But his teammate, Justin Jefferson, had a pretty good year. I was pretty impressed with him. He's someone, and I don't want to give Bucks fans too much PTSD, but he reminds me a lot of Quan Alexander. Undersized, but fast and physical. And, not that Quan Alexander was, this end-all, be-all linebacker, but he gave the Bucks a couple of pretty good years, especially considering he was a fourth-round pick. So when you're looking at a linebacker who is day 3, who can be that depth piece, who can possibly be a starter in a pinch or down the line, I think that's a name worth putting a pin in. I think he's a name worth mentioning. Another one I really like is Keyshawn Elliott from Arizona State. I know my guy Josh Capo has talked a lot about him. He's a little bit bigger, a little bit more physical. I think he is probably one of the best linebackers at the Senior Bowl, just in terms of the tape I watched going into it. I think he's a name that needs to be on the radar. And then the guy who really stole the show at the Senior Bowl was Kyle Lewis, the linebacker out of Pitt. And he's another one. He's even smaller than Terrion York. I think he measured in at like 5'11 and 220. He's almost a safety. And he's not great in the box. You don't want him in the muck with guards and bodies flying all around him. He can get run over a little bit. And by a little bit, it's really more than a little bit. But he's so good in coverage. He can really lock down running backs and tight ends. So it's a trade-off. He's kind of a niche player. It's kind of a very specific role. But I think he'll be really, really good in that role. So I think when you talk about what the Bucks have, Servasi Dennis, he's kind of sluggish. He's a run defender. He's a thumper. If he's part of your bench, you want him more of a coverage linebacker coming off your bench as well. And I think that's Kyle Lewis. I don't know if I ideally want him a starter. I think he's kind of a sub package player. But I think he's a really, really good sub package player. So he's one of those round 3, round 4 kind of linebackers in my book. And if you get one early and you want to add him to your room, I think that's a really strong room all of a sudden. But I think he's definitely a name worth putting a pin in because he has a really, really strong skill set in terms of coverage. And the Bucks really, really need that because their linebacker coverage was awful last year. And it was pretty bad the year before. So they need that skill set desperately. Alex Anzalone helped it in a big way, but they need to keep adding linebackers who can cover, and Kyle Lewis is the best in the class of that. So I don't want to drag on too long. Just wanted to touch on the linebacker situation. I'm going to pop on here again over the next couple weeks, break down some more position groups. Doing a lot of work over with the draft professors, covering the draft, doing a lot of write-ups for some of these players and how they fit the team. So I'm going to try and get these on podcast format, just going through the whole position group. Linebackers, obviously a big one. Edge is going to be a big one when we get there. But with Lavonte David still keeping us all in limbo, I thought it was relevant to talk about it now, to bring it up, because it could go in one of two directions. Attack linebacker really early, or wait a little bit and get more of a depth developmental guy and have him sit behind Lavonte for a year. And right now, we just don't know which way it's going to go. But we need to find out soon. Lavonte David, wherever you are, it's time, dude. Make your move. You're back, you're not back. Either way, we love you. Great player. Nothing but good things to say about Lavonte David. Me wanting him to make a decision should no way be, disparaging at all. But the team is a little bit hamstrung with him, keeping him waiting. So, with that said, going to call it a night. Go watch some basketball. Until next time, go Bucks.